You may want to pair this for Social Security benefits, and they're now expected to be cut by at least 20% over the next few years. But the lawmakers have laid out new solutions to this big issue. The program will be funded through a slightly different process, and benefits will be increased if this bill is passed. According to CNBC, millions of Americans look forward to claiming Social Security benefits every single year after paying into the program. But Social Security beneficiaries face the possibility of an across-the-board benefit cut of at least 20% in the next decade. It's due to a looming funding shortfall. Now, with this in mind, it can be changed if Congress does something about it. For instance, a Social Security beneficiary and a member of the AARP Iowa Executive Council told Washington, "You cut that 20% that people are paying, and that's a crisis. We've done our part. It's time for Congress to do their part." Social Security faces a shortfall between the income it receives due to payroll taxes and the benefit it collects. Now, the program's trust funds help make up a big difference, but in the next decade, those trust funds will dry up, and projections show without that buffer, benefits will be immediately reduced. The headlines about the program's funding woes may prompt Americans to suspect Congress is doing nothing to change the program situation. Two top lawmakers are already working on Social Security reform proposals, and they spoke at the AARP forum with Senator Bill Cassidy and the Democrats to discuss the negotiations. Senator Cassidy said it will not happen before the next presidential election because President Biden he made it clear that he's not going to act on this. So now, during his State of the Union address in February, Biden did say he would do something about it, but so far nothing has happened. Meanwhile, Representative Larson has put forward a bill in Social Security 2100 in 4 seasons to make sure the benefits are more generous. While Biden has called out a proposal from Republican Senator Rick Scott that would sunset the program every 5 years, Senator Cass said the president has failed to mention a separate bipartisan plan they had briefed on. And so now this bill has broad support from the House Democrats with 200 co-sponsors for a previous version of the proposal, yet it has been made clear to the House that it is going to vote on it. Recent hopes for a new bill advanced after Democrats have worried Republicans would say they're behind a massive tax increase. Now, the two top lawmakers' proposals have taken different approaches to achieve long-term solvency in the program. Senator Cassidy wants to create a new Social Security fund by raising $1.5 trillion that will be invested in the stock market. Now, the new fund will help the program keep up with inflation, which may run out at 6 or 7% annually. Now, while the Treasury bonds are doing this, it typically earns just 1 to 4%. And as the fund grows, it would ultimately have access to about 70% of Social Security's shortfall. Cassidy said the remaining 30% will have to be resolved through bipartisan compromise. Any change in Social Security will require 60 votes in the Senate, and therefore arrive to an agreement on from both parties. Larson, who recently introduced the Social Security 2100 proposal, criticized one idea that has been floated to create study commissions to evaluate the program's issues. Larson's bill would bring the minimum benefit up, which will lift 5 million people out of poverty. It would actually increase all benefits by 2% across the board, while also making benefits more generous for others. Without action on Capitol Hill, Social Security beneficiaries are left wondering what would happen if the benefits do face a shortfall.
So businesses can get the workers they need, families don't have to wait for a decade to be together. I've also directed my team to make a historic increase in the number of refugees admitted from Latin America. People fleeing violence and persecution who simply want their kids to have a better life. Next week, my team will consult with Congress on this plan. Third, we're supporting states and cities that have seen a surge in immigrants. We've developed federal experts and deployed them to help train city workers. We've launched outreach campaigns helping over 1 million eligible migrants apply for work permits. And we're accelerating the process for work permit application. Right now, most migrants have to wait 6 months after filing a claim before they can go to work. Only Congress can change that. But the Secretary of Homeland Security can take extraordinary action. And yesterday, given the poor conditions in Venezuela, Secretary Mayorkas announced temporary protection for hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans already in this country. These migrants will be able to apply for work permits, but that's not all. We've already delivered over $1 billion that Congress appropriated to states and cities receiving migrants. I've requested more funding, but instead of stepping up with solutions. Republicans are threatening to shut down the government. Now, think about this, man. Think how many people it's going to hurt. Think of the people who are going to get hurt. It's time to act. Meanwhile, we appreciate what businesses and nonprofits and churches and everyday Americans are doing with inspirational leaders like Sister Norma. They're doing to keep those in need what they need to just stay alive. You know, my dad used to have an expression. He also said, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. Well, guess what? We're going to ask them to join us in doing a hell of a lot more.
And this earned income tax credit, which gives relief to middle and low earning taxpayers, was also expanded in the stimulus package. But also, continuing unemployment benefit claims have risen to the highest level since February. It's a sign that the Federal Reserve's historic tightening cycle is beginning to buffet the economy. The Labor Department reported continuing claims rising again to 62,000 to 1.7 million just from a year ago. For the longest stretch of the end of the summer, new jobless claims defied expectations and remained low. Despite the Federal Reserve's aggressive and historic rate hikes, since the start of October though, they have been above 210,000. The Fed has been aggressively jacking up interest rates to tame inflation, but the trade-off is that rising rates, slow demand, can result in a recession. Last month, the central bank, another huge 0.75 percentage point, increased again, or 75 basis point of a rate increase. So it was the fourth such increase in just 5 months, the largest increase in 4 decades. Jerome Powell has also made it clear that the Fed won't even be tightening up its inflation starts until next year. Powell has even stated that the full effects of our rapid tightening so far are yet to be felt. It makes sense to moderate the pace of our rate increases as we approach a level of restraint that will be sufficient to bring inflation down. So the time for moderating the pace of rate increases may come soon as the December meeting comes to a close. But we know, folks, for sure that President Biden must do more for the American people, and sending out stimulus payments is the only thing he has to do. So he must sign this bill into law.
Thank you all for being here, and I apologize for my back when I'm speaking to you. My mother gave me hell for doing that. But Ken, thank you for the introduction and for representing your brothers and sisters in organized labor, and who always get the job done. While they can't be here today, I want to thank Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi, Senators Brown, Patty Murray, Ron Wyden for their leadership in this issue as well. And I want to thank all the members that are here. Richie, it's good to see you, pal, and who leads a powerful House and Ways and Means Committee and saw this legislation and to the end and saw it through. And Tammy Baldwin, he's mildly prejudiced about your position and from that state you represent. Tina Smith, Representative Bobby Scott,